Welcome to Desktop Management Training. My name is Merle Whitney, and I am a Microsoft Certified Trainer. I will be taking you through Windows Desktop Management Interface, tasks, and tools. As we go through the different tasks associated with desktop management, you will find that these are the very same tasks that you will be performing at the server level. The difference at the server level will be centralization. Instead of dealing with one client machine, you will be dealing with several client machines, several users. You will be dealing with the distribution of data, making sure that data is secure and that permissions, the correct permissions, are set on data within your organization. Now, Windows 10 is the latest version of the client operating system offered by Microsoft. Microsoft has had several different versions, as you can see here through the years. The latest being 7, 8, 8.1, and now we have 10. Windows 10, though, is based on the functionality of both Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. And these provide a stable client experience for the user. In order to support your users, it is very important that you know how to plan and to implement the deployment of Windows 10. It's also important that you know how to maintain those deployed installations, including volume licensing, which you will need for your company users. We want to take a look at the different editions of Windows 10. Now, every version of Windows comes out with different editions. And the reason you need to know about your editions is because you need to be able, as the IT person, to say what type of Windows installation you need for your organization, for your client computer. Let me give you an example. We have Windows Home edition, which is for an individual. It's for you to use at home. But for your organization, it might not be a good idea for you to purchase Windows Home because Windows Home will not be able to connect to your network. And that is a decision that you will have to make. If your operation, if your organization is going to be networked, then you need to buy Windows 10 Pro. And that is the edition that I would suggest for a small to medium size organization. The other editions, you can have the Enterprise for a larger edition. You also have the one for schools, Windows 10 Education. You also have Windows 10 for mobile phones. The one that we would concentrate though on would be the one Windows 10 Pro for your organization. The requirements for installing Windows 10 Pro, the minimum requirements that is, you need to know. You have for your processor 1 gigahertz or faster. For your memory, if you are going to purchase a 32-bit edition of Windows 10, you need 1 gig. If you're going to purchase a 64-bit installation of Windows 10, then you would need 2 gigabytes. Now, how do you choose between whether or not you're going to install a 32-bit or a 64-bit? Well, in most cases, the computer will run the edition of Windows 10 that corresponds to the processor that you have in your computer. If you have a computer with a 32-bit processor, because I'm saying you might have computers already in your organization and you are now ready to install Windows 10. So let's say you had a computer with a 32-bit processor. Well, you might want to download the 32-bit edition of Windows 10. If you have a computer that has a 64-bit processor, then you might want then to run the 64-bit edition of Windows 10. But remember, you can only install the 64-bit edition of Windows 10 on a computer that has a 64-bit processor. So you might want to, when you're downloading, and you can get the Windows edition from the Microsoft site, they will tell you what bit you have to download, either the 32-bit or the 64-bit. So you will need to look at your specs and determine which one you might need for your organization's client computers. Now, if we already have computers in our environment, you might ask yourself, well, how will I know whether or not Windows 10 will run on my computer? Do I have sufficient requirements for Windows 10 to run on the computer? Well, luckily for us, Microsoft gives us a tool called the Map Toolkit for Windows 10. And this tool helps determine whether or not your client computer is ready for the installation of Windows 10. When you run this software on your computer, what it will do is collect the information and simply give you a report. And the report will tell you whether or not your computer is ready for the installation of Windows 10. The tool is called MAP, and it determines the readiness of the tool of your system to find out whether or not you are ready for the installation of Windows 10. And we're actually going to take a look at the installation of this tool on your client computer. Once you have downloaded the setup file, all you need to do is to run that setup file. So here we have the setup file on our desktop, and we're going to run that setup file by double-clicking on the setup file. And we get the screen, welcome to the setup wizard for Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. And this wizard will take you through the process of configuring the product on your computer. So you want to click on Next to continue. At the license agreement screen, you want to read your license agreement. You scroll down and read the license agreement. And then you want to click on I accept the terms. Then click on Next. And the default area where this program will be stored is C program files. And we're going to go ahead and accept that. If you want to store it somewhere else, you click Browse and store it where you want to store it. We're going to click on Next. At this point for our session, we do not want to join the program, the customer experience program. So I'm going to click Do Not Join. And I'm going to click on Next and Install. I'm going to click Yes here because I want to allow the program, my computer, and we can see the installation. And we have to wait for the wizard to finish configuring. We want to pause the video until completed we want to go ahead and click Finish. Now we want to access the program, so I'm going to go to my Start menu and click Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. Yes, I want the program to run on my computer. I'm going to wait for the program to open. And we can see the program initializing. At this point on the screen, we need a database to collect that information, the information about our computer, the hardware of our computer, whether or not that hardware will support Windows 10. So in the Create or Select database, you want to type the name for the database. I'm going to call the database Data. And I'm going to say OK. At this point, over on the left-hand side, what I want to do is to select desktop, because that's what we're looking at, desktop client machine. And I want to collect the data. I'm going to do a Windows 10 readiness for the scenario. The computer will also run 8.17, or it will run Office, if your Office programs, whether your computer is ready for Office 2010, 2013, 2016, and other current versions of Office. So I'm going to click here on Windows 10 Readiness. And I want to collect data inventory. So I'm going to click here on Collect Data Inventory. Here we are asked to choose the scenarios, and we want Windows computers. As you can see here, there are a list of other scenarios that we can choose, but we're looking at Windows Desktop Management today. So we're going to click on Windows computers. And you can see here that the information that's going to be collected, your hardware, your device, software information, everything on your machine, the database is going to collect. So you want to click on Next. And we are not on a domain controller. We're not using Active Directory, so I'm going to deselect Use Active Directory. And if we use the Active Directory, what we will be doing in a centralized way is finding all the computers in our environment and seeing whether or not those computers were ready for Windows 10 instead of just one client computer. So I'm going to say here, manually enter computer name and credentials. Then I'm going to click on Next. And I'm going to create an account that will allow me to access the computer that I want to check. So I will click on Create. I'm going to type the account name, Administrator. And I'm going to type the password and confirm the password. I don't want to validate because I'm not using a domain controller. So I'm going to remove validate. I'll get an error message, but that's okay because we're not validating with the domain controller. So I'm going to click OK on that message. I'm going to close the account entry box. And I'm going to click on next. Click on next again. At this point, I actually have to specify the computer that I need to use. Click on computer, go to properties, go into advanced system settings, and click on computer name. And I can see my computer name here. What I want to do is just to copy it. Close that box. Close the box here. Close File Explorer. Now I'm back into my inventory screen and I want to click on Create. And here I want to say Use All Computers Credential List. And I'm going to the computer name box. And since I had copied that name, I'm going to right click and paste the name of the computer. Then I'm going to click on Add. And then I want to click on Save. Let's put that computer name back. There's the computer. FS2412. Click on Add. Want to save. Then you want to click on Next. And at this point, you're going to see that everything is here that we needed. If there's any error, we're going to see the error. And it says here that the collector requires at least that one computer credential. So let's go back to the computer credential page. Previous. Let's look for that credential. Go ahead, create again. We're going to type the administrative password, or we're going to type the administrator account. Come down to the password box. Confirm the password. Right. And we save. We go to next. Next. Second time. We already have the computer account there. Remember we had brought it in. So we're going to say next. And see, we have our summary here where we don't have the error message. So we want to click on finish. And we can see that the data is being collected. You can see the wheel spinning. We have to wait until it completes. This tool is a very important tool. It saves you time and it saves you energy, because all you have to do is to run the tool and the tool will tell you whether or not your computer is ready. And here we have one system discovered. I'm going to still wait until it says completed. Once it says completed, I can actually close the data collection window and I can see here that I have one ready for Windows 10. Application compatibility. When you deploy a new operating system to clients that are using apps, you want to make sure that those apps are compatible with Windows 10. Microsoft gives us a packet called Application Compatibility Tool that you can download from the Microsoft site. What you want to do is to probably build a test workstation. Put all the apps that you have on that workstation and then install the AC tool ACT tool on that workstation. Once it's installed, you can open the Compatibility Administrator and you can run any of your apps within that program. What you're going to have to do within the program is to create a database, just as we did a database with the map tool. We give it a name, and the database will collect all the test information. That information will run and will tell you if there's a fix for your particular problem, if that fix is required. If it is, then what you do is to save that fix to a location where you can take it and distribute it to the computers on your network. So that's another very useful tool that you might want to try on your client's computer. We also want to go back and look at some of the settings where you can find the specs. I want to right click on computer icon, click on properties, and this brings up our screen here. You can see this is your system screen, the properties of your system. You can see here that you have on the left control panel, device manager, remote settings, system protection, advanced system settings. We want to look at our processor and our memory. And this is where you might want, is one of the places where you will look to see what processor your system has, the speed of the processor. We'll look to see your memory, the installed memory on your computer, the type of system you are running, whether you're running a 64-bit or a 32-bit. On this screen, you can also activate your license. Let's scroll down here. And you will see whether or not your product is activated. If your product is not activated, then you will see here, activate product. You will click on the activate product button and you will put in your activation license. For organization, your organization usually purchases what we call volume license that you can install on your client computers. Now, we have looked at different ways of planning for the Windows 10 deployment. And it's important that you understand these things so that you make the right decisions for planning in your company. Our next session is going to be the installation of Windows 10 in your environment. This is the end of this session, and I want to thank you for listening.